What is February for? This is the worst month, but it's an honest month. It's like when we get to February, it's just unending. Christmas and like the brightness of Christmas lingered and got us through January, and then when that all wears out and you're ready for something happy and joyful, then you have to face February, and it just goes on and on. In the seminary, it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of serious. There's this unwritten rule that we don't do discernment in February, because wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can't hear God in February, and you just want to leave. And it's not like the grass is greener elsewhere. It isn't like, well, I want to leave seminary because it looks better over there at home, or don't want to be a priest. It looks better to be married. It's not that the grass is greener. The grass is dead everywhere in February. It's just like, this is why we say, just don't discern. Just wait it out. Just get through it. It's, like I said, the worst month, but it's an honest month. It doesn't hold up life any better than it actually is. It's sort of like February whispers, something great happened here, but now it's over with. And you look around, the birds who can afford it have gone to Florida. And the trees that once cheered us, now they're kind of hard to look at. And because it's cold, everybody's joints ache a little bit, and it's dry, so everybody's a little bit itchy and irritable. Everything's like too loud or too soft. It's never ending and bleak. And then when we get to the end, the consolation is that we have this holy day, Ash Wednesday. Like, what a great end to all of this. My great-great-great-grandfather, Obadiah Molderink, had a saying. He said, if you can survive February, then you'll make it to March. So I say all of this because, not just because we love to hate on February, but because I think it's actually a more accessible, more helpful image for us of the bush, the first bush in the first reading. As the prophet Jeremiah is talking about, cursed is the man who trusts in human beings, who depends on his own strength, and who turns away from God. He describes this man as like a plant or a bush in a lava waste, in a salty ground that never has a change of season, never blooms, never bears fruit, but just continues on, dead, unwatered, and cold. This is this first image that we're going to come back to in a minute, because then there's the second image that Jeremiah gives. But I want to go to the gospel for a moment. We have in the gospel Luke's version of the Beatitudes. And whether you're reading Luke or Matthew, I think there's only 4 ways to read the Beatitudes. The first way, probably the most common, it's at least the most common for me, is to ignore the Beatitudes, where Jesus says, blessed are you who are poor, blessed are you who are hungry. It's the most common because let me explain it this way. In my family, we have this face called the math face. And if we're eating dinner and some question comes up, it's a rare thing that a math question comes up at our dinner table. But if it does, someone says, oh yeah, what is 325 divided by 2.7? Then all of us, we all look thoughtful. And if you could hear our thoughts, there's nothing going on. There's no math, there's no thinking, there's not even like, how would you even begin that? All of us, what we're actually thinking is, just wait it out, wait it out. We pray that an in-law or a friend will be over who will quickly do the math, and then when they say whatever it is, we all, yes, yeah, okay, right. I think this is how I usually treat the Beatitudes. When the reading comes around, or when we address it in Bible study or something, yes, the Beatitudes, very important, very good. And then you just wait for it to pass, actually, because who can understand these? So that's the first way, to ignore it, actually. I think it's the most common. The second way is to reject the Beatitudes. And this is maybe a little bit better, because it at least takes them seriously, where you read through them and you say, I think this is garbage, I don't buy it, forget about it. Okay? To reject them is the second way to read it. The third way is to wrestle with the Beatitudes, to to read them, to try to understand, to talk about it, to play around, like trying to get into this. And there's some progress to be made in that for sure. But the difficulty I always run into is that, like reading today, I know that there are some places, sometimes, some areas in my life where I'm poor. And for those things, the Beatitudes are very consoling. Because Jesus says, "Blessed are you who are poor." So I know that there are times and places where I am poor, and so it's a consoling thing, not because I understand, but because Jesus said so, and I know him and trust him, and I don't know exactly what he means, but he says, "Blessed are you," so I'll take it, and it consoles me. On the other hand, I know that there are times and places where I am rich. And then these are not consoling. In fact, they're disturbing and disconcerting. Because the follow-up is, "For you have received your consolation." So we can get into these, we can pull them apart some, but usually if we take the third way, that is to wrestle with the Beatitudes, we actually end up just going back to the first way, which is to ignore them. Because we work it over, we don't really make a ton of progress. I mean, we can pull out some of these easy things. I thought about doing this for the homily this weekend. But they don't get to the heart of it. To say yes, Jesus means today externals are deceptive. Great. Or even we can get into some of the woe. Of course, woe to you who are rich, or to me who is rich. We get that if we're rich in these things, then there's an instability that creates woe, because these things are passing and fleeting and unreliable. There's always hustling too, because we just want more of it to feed our insatiable desire for riches or happiness or food or whatever it is. And also there's a fearfulness that comes with having these things, because we want to guard it and we got to protect it and not let anybody take it away. So yeah, there's woe involved, because there's just all this striving and protecting and worry about all that stuff, for sure. Yeah, but that's just a pretty lame homily. We could say too, Jesus wants us to reevaluate success and what it is to be blessed. For sure that's true. But I think you already knew that. All of these things, they come up short because there's something more to this. None of them are really getting to the heart of what Jesus, why does he say this to us today? It's unlike his other preaching. Most of the time he's trying to explain who God is and the kingdom, and he's given moral law. And then he turns everything upside down with the Beatitudes. There's a fourth way to read the Beatitudes, and it is not actually, as far as I can tell, to understand them. To be able to explain them, to get exactly what Jesus is talking about. I just actually don't think that's one of those ways. If you read the Beatitudes and you say, "Well, let me explain all this to you, Father Rob," I would be so happy to listen. But I think probably you're fooling yourself. Instead, the fourth way is to discover the truth of the Beatitudes, to live in the reality that they describe. But we can't get there directly. We can't get there through our minds. We have to arrive there indirectly, usually without understanding everything. And I know this because I have met these people. I know people who know the Beatitudes and understand them from the inside. That these people live them, and they get it, and they show it, and I can see it, but they can't really explain it. This is the fourth way. To discover what Jesus says is true, but not exactly to be able to explain it to our minds. Jesus has not come to bring confusion, so the Beatitudes aren't supposed to leave us with confusion. Instead, I think they can leave us with this piece of clarity, this very clear, simple thing. The Beatitudes can bring us to the clarity that I do not understand. I do not see the right way, because these they don't make sense to me. So here's the proposal. Okay, going back to the bush of February, that barren, hideous, crusty thing, This is the one who Jesus talks about this person in the gospel today, but this is the person who trusts in themselves, who trusts in other people, who trusts in human strength, in the ordinary things of the world, and turns away from God. The other image in this first reading is the tree planted by the water, with the roots that go deep into the soil, so that whether it rains or whether it goes through a drought, the tree is always green and bears fruit in every season. To seek this deep water, for our roots to go deep into the soil, to drink from the stream of life that is Jesus, we have to embrace some unknowing. We're going underground, and we can't see everything that's going on. We embrace the unknowing that the Beatitudes put us in, not just ignorance, not confusion, but unknowing. To seek the deep water, to know the Beatitudes from the inside, to enjoy what it is to actually be blessed, who Jesus is and the life that he lives and that he describes for us in the Beatitudes here today. Where do you have roots? How deep do they go? Are they looking for deeper sources of water? Especially in February, this is the time, this is a good time to ask. Because if February bowls you over, then probably they're not very deep. Let's seek deep water that is Jesus and his grace for us.